Hello everybody, and after much ado, welcome back to another Primetime Funk mod experience. So this time, I am reshelling a very dear system to me, which is a Gamecube that a friend of mine modded and took a lot of care with, and then sent out to me as an unexpected gift. So a little bit ago, I got noticed that there was a clear shell that was being released by Reshell as an aftermarket GameCube shell alternative, and I knew I had to do it because I'm just obsessed with clear shells on Nintendo products and otherwise. Not just Nintendo, I guess. So there are many resources on the internet and many videos out there for how to tear down a GameCube. I think like iFixit has just a very basic guide that I took a look at before I started tearing this one apart. And by tearing, I mean very carefully disassembling because I don't want to screw it up. This is my first time taking apart a GameCube and putting one back together, so I'm also breaking the other cardinal rule of not doing a video about it until you've actually done the mod fully at least once. But this isn't really a mod, it's a reshell. So this will be the second in my reshelling things with clear shells series. So this was actually released by a company called Reshell on AliExpress. Somebody sent me the link and I snapped it up while it was still in pre-order stage. And it came in very good time. In fact, if you go on AliExpress right now, it kind of still shows as pre-order status. So I gotta give them props for sending this sucker out quick. But yeah, so here we go. I've already disassembled, and you're gonna watch me putting this back together. And I'll try and edit out any of the applicable cursing that takes place. This is a family-friendly video, so we'll keep that bleep button handy. So first off, we've got the base. The last thing that I took apart on the other was this guy right here, the power supply. So we're going to be putting that back in first. But in proper order, we put these guys back in. Now, this is a brand new shell, so, and I haven't really done anything in the way of like pre-tapping, any of that kind of stuff yet, and that may or may not prove to be the wise move in the end, but I think we're gonna be okay. I've learned in the past when doing these new consoles, new console shells, is don't over tighten the screws. You don't really want anything to crack. Waited a while for the sucker to come from China. I really don't want to have to wait for another one. Okay. Nice. Okay, so we've got a couple more shielding bits here to go in. Nice. Now, we've got the larger shield. This guy's gonna go down over, and this one really actually only has the two big chunky screws right in the middle. So make sure that we line up. Yep. That one's fairly easy as far as EM shielding goes. This is the first time threading. Now this part does actually have to go on rather snug, so I don't really have much of a choice there, but I had to get her down all the way through. So nice. Now, we are going to put the main unit on here. There we go. It's down nice and flush. Have to clip it into place a little bit there. Now, there are 6 screws that essentially seal this down, but do it with the heatsink. Now, I pulled the heatsink off earlier. Now, if you've got thermal paste on this, this was kind of recently redone by a friend of mine, so I have a feeling that, yeah, you might have a different experience. If you're pulling your heatsink off, oftentimes the thermal paste will be either like gummed up or muddied or otherwise, but this is all fairly fresh. So when I pulled it up, it was so fresh that there was like a few streamers that kind of went off over the place. And I looked into it a little bit, and if you've got thermal paste, because it's a conductive solution, it can mess with how the board works. So you want to be careful that if any thermal paste makes its way onto the board, that you clean it up with isopropyl alcohol and right quick. You don't want to have any shorts or have electricity running the wrong way. So now we've seen that there's still some solid thermal paste contact on all of the processors. We can lay this one down in approximately the right spot. And then we can get all of these screws in place. I don't really want to mess with the gum around that thermal paste too much, so I'm going to be careful about how much this thing shifts. I was warned about that a bit ahead of time. Okay, now we got our 2 corner bits in place. Don't have to worry about this wiggling too much, and you can do the rest of them in relative comfort. So our heatsink is down, and we have actually locked this down to the previous plate with our screws. Before we go any further with putting the drive and stuff back on, I think I'm going to shore up a couple of other smaller details. So the kit comes with 2 different backs, one for the DL01 and one for the standard. Mine has the dual ports on the back. We're actually going to put that guy in place. That was the easiest thing ever. Okay, and then we're also going to put this guy back on. So this has some pretty sweet LED light action going on it. Thanks again, Dustin. And that's going to be one of the things I'm looking forward to most, is getting this turned on, seeing how these UV lights actually shine through. My friend replaced the standard power LED with something a bit cooler, and then also set these up with some pretty sweet UV purple LED lights. that went very nicely with the indigo case that I had before, but I think will also go quite nicely with the clear. Now I'm actually going to connect this all together. Yeah, that looks good. And then just trying not to put too much stress on the ribbon. You know what? I might just pop that out. Just pull straight up. Don't reef on it too hard. So this one needs to thread a little bit more, I think, so. There we go. So these two screws right here are what connect these two pieces together. Okay. This is gonna look so sweet. Okay, now we'll connect that back down. Just slides right in. So this connector goes into that connector. Nice. So that can hang out there for a minute. Now, all these regular screws that I was talking about, these all go in once we put the drive back in place. There we go. She rests down, and then we can just start securing. Woo! That was a lot of work. It's looking good. So as you can see, my friend already actually modded this one. He took a Gamecube that had a busted disk drive and got a 3D printed part for it, and man, did a bunch of modification that I still don't know how he does. So I'm still more into the Game Boys in terms of what I'm going to mod than the consoles. I've done a little bit here and there, but I'm a lot less confident on those because I don't take them apart much. But yeah, we just got a few more steps here, and then we're gonna have the big show soon. So. And this is the part where I realize that I have two screws that I need to take back out again because they're what holds the fan assembly in place. So, yeah. but they'll be nice and pre-tapped for me to put in, so great. There we are. Oh, how easy it was to screw that in now that the hole's pre-tapped. Much better, much better. Okay. So, got a couple of odd little things to put on. Okay, that was easy enough. I did take this all apart earlier, it's just my short-term memory is terrible. Okay. And the last one. Okay, so if I did everything correctly, that is the last Phillips head that I will have to screw in. Good, there's a little bit of give there. I want there to be. So I'm going to set that aside. Now, this just clips into place. There we go. Now we have our slots up front. That works quite nicely. Keep trying to square this off, but the camera's crooked, and I keep trying to follow it with that. Now this essentially just slides down over. If I do it right. Yeah, I thought that might be asking a little too much. So I found that I had not tightened this board into the casing enough. So there was actually, the board was sitting out past and it was messing up the fitment and not letting it close. So just decided to go back in, methodically check over everything, and this green board that holds the LEDs and the controller ports was just a little bit loose. So once I figured that out, now this just slides into place and sits flush. Now the last 4 screws are going to go in, but there's one thing I got to do first. There's 2 spots, one for a serial port, and there is a piece of the mod that needs to go in. There we go. So that goes, and then we have our 4 long game bit screws. Now this should be interesting. I may have to pull back a little bit with the camera because I'm going to have to probably get right in there. So a couple more steps. This is the Game Boy player. And now I love the fact that the lights on this are going to be UV purple because it's going to match the indigo on this guy. There we go. A different head on this screwdriver. One of the finishing touches, this is a custom jewel that my friend had made for this thing, which is going to look awesome. I added a little bit of double-sided tape to it because, yeah, previously had a touch of glue on it, but I don't like what the Gorilla Glue that I have does to plastic. It makes it cloud over and looks weird. A little bit of double-sided tape will go just fine. I don't go crazy with the double-sided tape either. It's like 3M poster tape. So it's not going to be super adhesive, but it's also not going to fall off. I should be able to pop it off later at any point if I like. So, wow. There it is. This thing is pretty gorgeous. Now I'm looking forward to getting it back upstairs and turning it on and seeing how those lights on the front look. So I'm going to take some other pictures and I'm going to show you how it looks all lit up, but for now that is the Reshell icy white Gamecube shell. I have not been compensated for this. In fact, I paid good money for this. My review is that this feels really nice and looks really good. That's one of the higher quality replacement shells I've seen for really anything. And any of the issues that I had were purely human error, so that is going to look pretty great in the collection upstairs.